All right, on today's episode of AIS podcast, we have Bob Turner. So Bob is on the East Coast, I believe in Maine, and he is a general contractor, entrepreneur, endurance athlete, and he's transitioning into the coaching sector. It's a really good conversation. We talk about his business, his goals, where he came from, kind of start to finish, how being an endurance athlete gave him attributes to be successful in his business, and a little bit of everything in between, including some Karens. So I think you're gonna like this episode. Give it a listen and make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share this episode, and thank you. All right, so on this week of AIS, we have Bob Turner. Bob is an entrepreneur, a contractor. He's a mindset coach, endurance athlete, has a wealth of knowledge in our space in the contracting sector. Really excited for this conversation. So Bob, if you want to give us a little intro on yourself, we'll get started.
Hey, thanks a lot. I appreciate being here. You reached out to me a while back, and I was like, "Wow, all right, get on someone else's podcast for a change." I've been trying to do a bunch of my own, and I'm always when I run into somebody, I'm like, "Hey, you'd be good on the podcast." So, thanks for having me. I appreciate being here. I'm 53. I live in Southern Maine. Have lived here all my life. I've been about year 19, I think, in the contracting business. I've done a bunch of endurance athlete type stuff. I've done 6 Ironman races and a bunch of halves and marathons and all that kind of stuff for the last 15 or 18 years or so. And I used to joke that I would just do that kind of working out so that I could eat whatever I wanted to. Otherwise, I think I'd be 400 pounds. But in that process, I kind of started working with people. I had a little triathlon coaching company for a while and helped people get across the Ironman finish line. That was kind of my intro to coaching. And then kind of as I've kind of matured as a contractor and joined some other groups and got some coaching of my own, I realized, the coaching bug just hadn't gone away. So at the end of last year, just kind of jumped back into that, and that's created a bunch of other opportunities and things like this. And I'm just kind of having a ball. I feel like I'm about 10 years late to the personal development space, but I got a lot of making up ground to do. But I'm over here shoveling just as fast as I can, so I'm having a blast.
Nice, yeah. It's great to have you on. I'm excited for this conversation, especially with all your experience in so many different fields that I feel like I relate to. Because I used to do endurance events as well, ultra running, mountain races, and obviously we're both contractors, so I think it's going to be a good talk. So tell us a little bit about your current business, the contracting. I know you do some new construction, remodels. How did that begin? Where is it now? What do you do in the business day to day?
Sure. So my dad and I actually started in '05. He had retired early from an insurance job. Well, they retired him early. They kind of merged with another company. So he found himself at about the age I am now and was, kind of looking for something to do. And I had kind of left the corporate. I was working for a small millwork company. We got bought by a big lumber company. And I just didn't love that. I went from being the number 2 guy at a small millwork company to being one of 500 employees overnight, and it was okay for a bit. I did some other things here and there, but kind of settled on starting a remodeling business. Didn't know a lot about it, just jumped in and wanted to work for myself. And as a kid, I was that young guy with a couple of lawnmowers sticking out of the back of a 1977 Chevette with a borrowed weed whacker and a gas can. I was off and running, but my dad's kind of stuck around for the first 5 years or so. He did the business end of things, and I did the stuff in the field, and we were a really good team. And then we have a camp up in northern Maine, and he kind of retired and decided to do more of that than work, which is great. That's what it was all about anyway. And I kind of went forward with the business from there. And we've had some really good years. Year 3, we did over $1 million. And starting from 7x9 bathrooms in kitchens and doing some additions and that kind of thing. That's a lot of work to get to that number early on. We've had some good years over the years, but never really went crazy with it or scaled it. And I didn't really know how to do that. Nobody ever really teaches you that. And it wasn't even until a couple of years ago I got some business coaching and started trying to figure out my numbers and realized, probably not charging enough money, or, I'm not really focusing on scaling, or, trying to figure out, like, what am I really doing here and where are we going, So I really started dialing into that. And last year, we did 1.6 million in 2021 and just under 2 million last year. and still just kind of struggling to get the numbers right, struggling to charge enough money, or we might quote something at X and perform it at Y. So these days, that's kind of what I'm really focusing on. I have a full-time project manager, operations manager, a guy that handles the work in the field. I'm off the bags, as they say. And it can really, my skills are really managing processes and attracting good people to the company and dealing with customers. And I'm really good on the front end of, saying, hey, we can do this, we can do that, we'll be great, creating trust, gaining somebody's, favor in us or trust, if you will, and then trying to deliver on that. So the last couple of years have been super frustrating as we've dealt with, COVID and subcontractors, and everybody just seems like everybody's head just spun around backwards for whatever reason. So it's been an incredibly challenging business environment here in Maine and probably across the country. You guys have probably seen it too, but I always say, hey, everybody's dealing with it. So we got to figure it out. So, but today I own the business, and Ryan runs kind of the operations side. I'm doing sales, contracts, getting things teed up for him ultimately, particularly with me kind of diving into the coaching aspect. I'm asking him to do more so that I can do less, but not because I want to do less, but because I have interests in other areas and getting dragged in a bunch of different directions. So it's a balancing act, trying to be responsible with both and do good things. But, sometimes we're out of balance one way or another, and we just kind of straighten that out as we go.
Yeah. You're in an interesting situation, and it's something that I think a lot of contractors aspire to be in, is to take a step back and do the things that you're passionate about. And maybe that is, giving back to the community and helping other contractors get to where they want to go, or spending time in sales and getting, off the bags and not being a direct cog in performing, the actual renovation or addition. So good for you. That's exciting.
Thanks.
As far as getting to that point, starting in 2005 to now, what were the big shifts in your business that, once you had some insight from outside influence of a coach or whoever it may have been, what was kind of the first steps to get you in the position you're in now?
Probably working on my mindset. For the last year or so, I've worked, every week. I talk with a guy every Friday afternoon at 4:00, and it's just mindset stuff. And kind of kicking down some doors personally. Like, I kind of always felt like I was only able to do so well, and I don't know where that came from. I've had a great childhood. My parents are awesome. They, always were like, hey, you can do anything you want to do. But I don't know, you kind of grow up in an environment, you're like, well, okay, this is what my folks did. Maybe I'm supposed to be about here. This is kind of where I land. But so I had some limiting beliefs I needed to get rid of there. And that takes a lot of work. And it starts with self-awareness. And I really started to gain a lot more self-awareness and really look at how I was showing up for everybody in my life, like whether it was my employees or friends or family or new relationships or whatever. And then really took a look at self-worth too. And because, everybody might look at me and go, oh, Bob's a 6-time Ironman finisher. He does this and he's motivational. He's all that. But, I've got negative self-talk too, right? And so really trying to just call myself on that stuff, bring it up short and say, okay, what would you do if there were no limits? Like, what would be your perfect day? Well, I would do this. I would speak nationally. I would coach at a high level. I'd inspire everybody that I could inspire, So when I was doing my Ironman stuff, I just started writing a blog and telling my stories about my races. And then my video guy walked in one day and he said, we're going to shoot some Turner Builder videos, as I call them. And I said, we're starting a podcast. He said, what do you mean? I said, we're starting a podcast and you're the first guest. He goes, what? I said, okay. So, and I said, the goal is to do one a week for 52 weeks. And we didn't make it. We did 19. But at the end of that year, I had 19 podcasts that I didn't have a year ago. And we're doing better this year. We're doing more. So, it's just been a fun ride. But I think that just kind of gaining some self-awareness around like what I really wanted. And I think that maybe, you're a lot younger than me. You hit 50 and you start to say, ooh, we're at best half done here. What am I doing? What's going to be my legacy? Am I just going to go through this and kind of, bumble through life, or am I really going to, kick some ass and take some names and make some things happen?
Yeah. I had that moment happen to me when my now wife was pregnant. That's kind of the birth of KHB. My back was against the wall, and I needed to change my situations around me to provide for my family, you know. And I think everyone has one of those moments where it's either put up or shut up type of thing, you know.
Right.
As far as, you know, running your own construction company, being an entrepreneur in general is very lonely at the top, as they say, and it really is. And I think I could correlate that to training, right? When you're putting in those long miles, those long weeks, and you're ramping up before your taper, and you're kind of in the thick of things. It's very lonely. You need a lot of mental strength, mental fortitude, and all your demons come out when you're at your, you know, when you're at your end wits. I remember being I was doing a ultra marathon in Tahoe, and I was on like mile 25 or so, and every weakness that I had in my mind, my body just started coming right to the forefront. You know, all that negative self-talk, you almost have to reconsume it as, you know, energy and fuel to keep going. How do you feel your mental fortitude from being an athlete kind of transcended into being an entrepreneur and having that strength to be a leader in your company, to lead other men and women in construction now, and, you know, mindset coaching, business coaching? What do you think, what attributes did you gain there that really set you up for success?
Well, my friends that race and train with me would tell you that I have another gear, and I don't know what they mean by that, but, you know, they'll make comments like, man, on race day, you're a different person. I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, you just seemed like you have this ability to put yourself in a really bad place for a really long time. In other words, I guess I'm good at suffering. And so I think for years I thought suffering in business was like the way to the top, you know? And then just recently I said, well, wait a minute. If I bring my kind of badass mindset or mentality from Ironman and triathlon and all that stuff to the business world, it's game over, right? Like, I mean, I have utmost confidence in that, but if I go tentatively and I do this and I do that and I don't like race to win, so to speak, then I'm not going to make it. And so I was doing Ironman Lake Placid back in 2011. I remember this. That's a quick story. I came through town. It was a friend of mine, Mike, I was chasing. He had 4 minutes on me going into the second loop. So I had 13 miles left to run. And my dad was on the sideline. And I said, where is he? And he said, he's got 4 minutes on you. I go, he's mine. And so I saw a friend of mine down the road. He was watching. I said, Kurt, where is he? And he said, he's got 3 minutes on you. I said, he's mine. And he goes, man, that's a lot of trash to talk with 10 or 12 miles to run on an Ironman. I said, yeah, it is. But I didn't realize it at the time. But what I was doing is kind of calling my shot, right? But I was painting myself in a corner. And just like you with your, you know, when you said it was your kind of moment of truth or where your back was against the wall, like sometimes that's where we do our best work because there's no plan B. There's no parachute, right? Like I don't want to come back into the finish area and not have, you know, not beat that guy. Turns out I caught him a few miles later and I never looked back and I ended up beating him by 45 seconds. We were great friends. We had a great day. But I caught, it's like Babe Ruth, you know, you call in your shot, you want to make it happen, but you got to be willing to do that, step out and say, yeah, I'm going to do this today. And so I think if I can apply that same thing to business or anybody else that might be listening, if you take that, the mental toughness that you have for other stuff and say, flop it on the table and say, okay, what would happen if I applied this to my business? How would things be then?
Yeah, the raw skills in a lot of different ways, just applying that, just that resilience and that grit, because it is a grind. And I do think being very loud about your goals, like with our team here, we're very loud about our quarterly, annual goals, 3-year goal, 5-year goal. And I think you have to kind of call your shot, right? Because now if I don't succeed, I have a lot more skin in the game because now it's my reputation. You know, it's my pride is kind of on the line. So yeah, I like that, how you called your shot mid-race. Like, where is he? How many minutes he has on me? I'm going to go hunt him down. But yeah. But we used to call, I used to put targets on people's backs is how I would describe it.
Me too.
You know, when I was in the thick
who's
of
this
it.
guy?
And,
who's this guy?
Yeah, who's this guy from me? And I had like a little benchmark. I'd be like, the guy that's 5 people ahead of me, I'm going to hunt him down this next climb. Right. You know, and then the downhill, I'm going to take out this guy.
My mantra out there was always that I want to be the toughest guy out there all day long. You might be faster than me. You might have trained more than me. You might be more gifted, but you're not going to be any tougher than me. And I would have guys go by me on, at the time, the 10,000, say, hey, a nice $10,000 bike. And they'd blow by me and I'd see them walking on the run. And I'm like, dude, like there's 3 events here. You had a great bike split, but now I'm going by you walking on the run, And so I got some mental toughness and mindset training just from that, and saying, okay, the guys that do best at Ironman do okay at all 3 events, and it's not a game of who goes the fastest. It's a game of who slows down the least.
Yeah. And when you're working around those types of athletes and now with other entrepreneurs, what type of attributes are you seeing in them? Are you seeing this similar type of grit where they had kind of that back against the wall mentality, no plan B, I'm all in? What are you seeing with other contractors that are successful?
Yeah, I like to work with somebody that's got that. I mean, because it fires me up too, right, and challenges me. Like, okay, I got to bring my A game to work with this guy because he's a winner. I would say that, getting rid of, if you want to play well at the contracting game or anything in entrepreneurship wise, you gotta have good self-worth. You gotta have great self-awareness. You've got to believe in yourself, okay? Because if you don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to, right? You can't sell that. Somebody will smell that a mile away, particularly in a sales situation. You got to have confidence, Otherwise, you're better off to just go punch a time clock, be done after 40 hours, and go home and hang out with your family. Because you and I both know when you trade that 9 to 5 for a 24/7, things change in a hurry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. And one of the big limiting beliefs, and I guess kind of a syndrome that I picked up, was that imposter syndrome, especially starting out, because I am younger, right? I'm turning 30 this year. I'm only a third way there, hopefully.
Yeah.
And with that, I don't have an MBA or 10 years experience running a business or any of these things. And one of my biggest issues getting into the situations I was getting into, selling $250,000, $300,000, $400,000 renovations, was I don't have the resources myself to do this. How can I be a conduit to execute this for someone that does? I had this big head trash around selling those high ticket items, and then standing behind and saying, because when you're starting out, when you're day one in a company, you are at the bottom of the totem pole. It is that wartime type situation where you have to have the confidence, you have to have the self-belief, you have to have the entrepreneurial spirit behind what you're doing. And I always found that was probably took about 1.5 years, I would say, to get out of that mindset. And I know a lot of contractors that are in the 6-figure, revenue, and they're looking to get the 7 figures, they're looking to scale, looking to grow. They're facing that a lot too. So what advice would you give that new contractor out there that's, looking to get the 7 figures, maybe doesn't have the self-belief? What advice would you give that person?
I would just say be honest and be transparent. If somebody's looking at you and saying, hey, geez, hey kid, how are you going to be able to handle this $300,000 addition? You probably don't have a dozen of them under your belt. What's going on? Say, yeah, boy, yeah, you're right. I am. Just call it out. Agree with them. I am young, but I'm full of energy. I've got great contacts. I'm excited about this business. This would be a great project for us. And just be upfront with people and be honest. I always say I don't lie because I don't have that good a memory. Yeah. I just tell the truth. You don't have to remember it.
And homeowners are going to smell that out too. Like if you're feeding them a bunch of BS, they're gonna know. Yeah.
The other thing is I use that sales process to build a rapport. Like a lot of guys won't, they'll come out and look at the job, but they sometimes homeowners need some hand holding, right? So I'll say, hey, do you mind if we set up another meeting? Let's just say, hey, we floated out a budget here. This is going to be $250 to $300. Would you mind if I brought the plumber, the electrician, the siding guy, the excavation guy, maybe 6 of the subs that have the biggest impact on this project, and run them through here? And just it'll allow me to help me get more accurate pricing for you. And they're like, well, yeah, absolutely. And I've won a couple of projects just because people were able to meet the team. And I asked them, what tipped you over the edge? You said it was between me and another guy. We were about the same price. They said, we met your team. We felt comfortable with you guys coming in our home. Yeah. Because that's the thing too. I tell guys, we're not at a job site. We're at a home, and, you're going to be dealing with somebody getting their kids on the bus or dealing with their dog. Don't let the cat out. Maybe an in-law living on the third floor. All those kinds of dynamics that come into play when all of a sudden you're up close in somebody's house. So
the thing I found, because obviously I didn't have the tenure, I think if I started my business when I was 40, maybe 45, I have a lot more authority off the bat.
Right.
What we did, we hired people around us that had that authority, and we did the same thing. We brought our team in, right? Like, sure, at this point I was 26, 27 when we started KHB. But I was surrounded by, well-established men in their 50s, 60s that have been contractors for 20 plus years, architects, designers that, I was networking with, bringing in a part of our process. And those things did go a long way. And that's something when I'm talking to, other kind of starting out contracting companies, I say surround yourself with people that fill in your weaknesses, right? Because my strengths is I have great communication skills. I build great rapport. I'm a decent at sales. I'm a value-based consultative salesperson. But what I was lacking was the 20, 30 years of industry experience. So some of our first hires were guys that filled in that blank.
You're a team builder.
Yeah. Well, and essentially, if we are trying to get to a place in our contracting companies and in any business where we get to focus on our strengths, we need to hire for our weaknesses, right? We need to be filling in the gaps and building out that org chart to be as efficient as possible to fill in the places that you personally can't fill in.
That was the very first thing I did when we started out. When my dad came from insurance. So he wasn't a trades guy. I knew how to do some things, but we started, I remember we were doing a kitchen. I ran into a guy. I'm like, I really didn't know how to do the crown, And I got talking to this guy, and actually I called my dad. I said, I think we can hire him. And he said, what are you going to pay him? I said, I'll pay him whatever it takes. And I actually paid him. I was the owner of the company. I paid our trim carpenter more than I paid myself, because I needed to pay for knowledge, just like similar to what you just said. I was fine with doing that because I've always tried to be like, listen, there's no way I'm going to get to where I want to go without bringing a bunch of great people with me. And it's like they say, it's lonely at the top. Yeah, it is if you don't bring a bunch of people with you. So I didn't have any problem paying for knowledge, and it was, I don't want to be like the best trim carpenter. I don't want to be great at QuickBooks. I want to have a bunch of people that are all really good at what they do, and like you, be a team builder, create an organization and a place where people can come to work and feel good about, make a good living. That's always been something that I've looked at. Every once in a while I'll step back, and there's been times when we've had 8 or 9 employees or 3 or 4 guys, or, and I look back and I'm like, all these people are hanging their hat on me. Like, I need to make that next sale. I need to get this done. I need to get my billing in, because these people are making their living here. We're not playing around.
Yeah, and it makes it a lot easier to charge what you need to charge when you look at your employees and know that they have families to go back to. You know that if you give this person a discount, you're kind of shortchanging your employees, and it's just not fair. I was actually just in this situation yesterday on a job walk where I had a $110,000 estimate. I was giving this homeowner, her budget was $100,000, but she wouldn't budge on scope of work, really. She just had a contractor run through that house, tear the whole thing apart, did really bad work. And we were the 3rd contracting company to come in and try to fix this project and finish it. 2 bathrooms, stairs, flooring. It was a mess, right? And she essentially asked me to take $10,000 off my bill as a gift, right? and I told her, I said, if I do that, I am now discounting and shortchanging my employees that have to take home a check, right?
Yeah.
I'm also shortchanging you. Like, because if I discount you $10,000 and one thing goes wrong and there's no margin there, now I can't stand behind the work I'm doing, right? I can't go out of business on a project. And, after I was reflecting, I was on the drive back home, and I was, we ended up actually closing the job. We worked it out and reduced scope of work to meet her budget, which is good. Sure. But I was reflecting on the way home. When I first started, when I was in the field, I 100% would have just discounted her, right? She was a Christian. Same. I'm a Christian. She was saying, it's Passover week, and she's like, I can't make any decisions after Wednesday. I'm gonna be dormant for a week for Passover, and I really need to make this decision now. If it was 4 years ago, I would have just done it at the price she needed me to do it at.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
situations
no,
like that.
I've asked people like that before, or said, hey, if I you know, which one of these guys would you like to have work for free, you know, and not make
Yeah.
a paycheck next week? I mean, if I would have been, I was charging you too much from the beginning if I could do that, you know. So,
Yeah.
you know, you try to make it work for people, because one of the things I've found is they're not, like, if somebody's going to drop 150 grand into their house, that's not something they've done a few times. Probably they're going to do it once, right?
Mm-hmm.
So their expectation about what stuff costs may be what their neighbor said, or what they heard on HGTV. They don't know. So until you educate them and say, listen, you know, hey, 2x4s are up, plywood's up, whatever. We've got supply chain issues. It's taking longer to get stuff done because of, you know, who knows why. Just blame it on COVID. But for some reason, 4-month projects take us 6 now. I don't know why. And I'm having to you know, get with subs to get them over there. But just educating them on the front end, I think, can clean up some of that. And I spend probably more time with the average guy on the front end with people just to establish rapport and educate. But I think it pays off in the long run.
Yeah. And building that rapport so they understand the value that your company brings to the table. Because so much of the time, and this is actually a podcast, I think a couple of weeks ago, we talked about being viewed as a commodity in construction. And
Right.
where it's not true. Like, not every business is the same. My overhead is not the same as your overhead, Bob. You know, like,
No.
and my company does some things different than your company does.
Sure.
Same thing with, you know, Joe Blow in our, you know, in our current market here. We all have different overhead. We all have different volume that we can perform at. We all have different goals with our companies. And for that reason, everyone's price will be different. But building that rapport throughout the sales process to really show the value you're bringing to the table and what's a differentiator for you, that is huge. And that is something, you know, you point that out. This was an extremely rushed, out of process sales consult, right? This was something that was thrown at me out of left field, did not assimilate to my process that I have built out. And I took the pity story and I went there and I went out of process. And this is what happens when you get out of process. You get strong armed, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, you got to stay in your process. And I think that I always ask this question, like, what other businesses could somebody actually call and engage your services for absolute free? Nothing. Maybe real estate, right? But, you know, we all put our cape on and fly over to their house and step away from dinner with our family. Hey, somebody called. Let's go look at a job, you know?
Yeah.
Wear it as a badge of honor, and that's so great. Somebody called me to look at a job, and now I chew the fat with them in their front yard on a Sunday evening for an hour, and then come back and do up a quote, and then I never hear from them. Mm-hmm. Well, you call and you don't get them, and so that's why I try to qualify on the front end and say, listen, hey, this is going to be 150 to 200. If it is, are we going to be working together?
Mm-hmm.
You know, well, I gotta talk to 3 other guys. Okay, we'll go do that, and then let me know how you make out with that, and happy to answer any questions. But I'm not going to come over and roll up my sleeves and spend hours upon hours with you unless I've got a feeling like I got a seat at the table.
Yeah, or if there's some skin in the game, right? Like,
Exactly.
I'll give an estimate over the phone. I'll do a consult that is, you know, time bound strictly. But if you're not putting skin in the game to move forward, like, no, I'm not doing a free design. You know, no, I'm not going to be building condocs and getting all this stuff done for free. Like, that's just not how it goes. And I find the ideal customers, they want to pay you, right? It's the ones that, you know, are maybe on the fence or maybe not your customer, are the ones that are, you know, busting you about all the little nickel and dimes here and there to get started.
There's a slow shift happening. I think it's where people are starting to realize contractors need to get paid. I mean, you can't get somebody to look at your dishwasher for without a minimum charge, right? That appliance guy, he's been holding us hostage for years, right? But you can expect a contractor to come to your house on Saturday morning for free and spend an hour talking about just concepts, you know. And you can chew up a ton of time doing that. So I've tried to get away from that over the years. Yeah,
and especially for the markets we're in, you know, we're the plastic surgeons, right? We're not the ER doctor. You know, like you go into the ER, you're not really getting hit with a bill off the bat, right? But if you're going in for, you know, a facelift and a little nip tuck, like, yeah, you're paying for that consult because it's something that you want to do, right? We found our ideal customers, we don't do any insurance work or anything like that. So everything that our customers wanted, they want that brand new kitchen. They want that bathroom. And if you want that, you got to pay for that service.
Yeah, exactly. Totally agree.
So what's your plans with your business? Are you, I know you said you're switching over to kind of the coaching role of things. What does that look like for you in the next, 1 to 3 years?
Well, we're kind of leveling Ryan up a little bit, and he's kind of coming of age as a manager and working on just his own personal growth. And he's kind of in between you and me. He's 41, so kind of the plan is for and I don't really care volume wise. If we were at 2 million last year, we come to 1 million, but we do it at a higher profit margin, and it's easier with less stress, less chaos, less just craziness. I'd be happy with that. My activity on, with podcasting and coaching has increased, and it's going to continue to increase, but without having Turner Builders running smoothly, none of that matters, right? Because that's technically where I make my living. So, I'm kind of, my week is kind of structured right now where Monday and Tuesdays are my heavy Turner Builder contractor guy days. Wednesday, Thursday, I knock out some coaching calls and check in with Ryan morning and afternoon. Friday's kind of my floater. Whatever needs to be cleaned up, whether it's a postponed call, job site visit, billing, collecting money, that kind of thing. So it's a little bit of a hybrid right now, and it may continue to be. But one of my goals has been, just wanting to be able to work from anywhere, right? And that's hard if you run a contracting business, right? But I just recently spent 2 weeks. I went to see my friend in Punta Gorda down in Southwest Florida. Spent a little over a week there, and then went from there to San Diego for a contractor event. And I was going to come home in between, and I was like, I talked to Ryan. I'm like, I don't think I need to, So I just had my work days. Yeah, I had my work days there. I did my calls there. And then went out to the event in San Diego, and I'm wait a minute. I thought this goal was like 5 years out. I just did it. And I've got a camp up in northern Maine where, hey, in the summertime, rather than just going on the weekend, maybe I go on a Wednesday, then work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday up there on the laptop, do my sales calls Mondays and Tuesdays. So ultimately, that's kind of what I see, and maybe, at age 53, I've got a 10-year run in me, the way I look at it, of really wanting to be this excited for working and showing up and, tearing into things. But at that point, I wouldn't mind being able, my daughter's in Dallas, Texas, and it looks like she's going to stay, and that's great. She's so much more opportunity there for her at her age right now, and I'm psyched for her, super proud of her. But I'd like to be able to go out there a few times, and maybe I go out and spend 2 or 3 weeks in February. And the Maine winters are long, man. It's
yeah, you never understood the summer.
Yeah, I'm like, everybody goes goes south in the winter. I wonder why that is. So I'm starting to realize why it is. It gets old.
Oh, sure.
So
can you attribute that kind of that time freedom you're experiencing? Is that, building out a process for your management team that's repeatable, predictable, to where they can really handle those projects? Because what we've found is it's mostly the customer facing things, right? Once you have a relationship with trade partners, once you have the in-house labor to perform trades, that's kind of on repeat. It's very repeatable.
Right.
But the customers, every single customer has a different style, if you will, of how they interpret their job being managed. What have you done to really empower your team to be able to manage these projects while, you explore San Diego for contracting events and spend a week in Florida?
First of all, I would say complete autonomy. Ryan knows that I said, listen, if you need to make a decision, you make it. And I have complete confidence that 98% of the time, he's going to do exactly what I'd like him to do or what I would have done. And I said, if there's a time where you don't, I got your back. We'll fix it. Don't worry about that. I don't want him to be decision impaired because, I don't know, I can't get a hold of Bob, or Bob's out of town. What do I do? Just make it happen. We're also, our goal this year is complete processes and procedures. I've been terrible at that over the years. I'm not, you've seen me. I'm a high energy guy. I'm a, hey, let's go climb the mountain guy. Let's go ride our bikes. I'm not, hey, let's run the P&L and let's look at QuickBooks and let's do this and do that. So details, on the disc scale, I'm not no S and C on this cat. I'm all D and I, right?
Yeah, same.
So, and the other thing is I've brought in an admin, and we're just this month of April, we're getting going with an admin, and I'm turning stuff over to her. I'm not going to let everything, go to the post office and get the mail, pay the bills, make sure this is done, make sure that's done. So I'm writing everything. So right now, Ryan and I are both writing down a list of everything we both do, and they're going to talk about the things that neither one of us like to do or end up doing well, and that's where she's going to come in. So ideally, she and Ryan working in harmony all week long on the the heavy lifting, and I'm over here kind of filling the funnel, doing those kinds of things, putting projects in. The other thing, to your point with keeping things repeatable, is rather than go out and get the big behemoth custom renovation on a 100-year-old house, we're looking kitchens, baths, basements, decks, and it maybe just be kitchens, baths, like really niching down and making sure that we know what we're doing. And like I've said to Ryan, why don't we just be the best kitchen and bath guys out there? Then we've got and our plumber knows what our process is. Our electrician knows that worst case is he's swapping out a panel, doing recessed lights, hooking up some under cabinet lighting. He's not, rewiring a whole house, getting rid of knob and tube. And so it simplifies. Oh, it's brutal.
Yeah.
If we can simplify things and make them repeatable, it's better for our subs. They like our work better because, as you know, if you're in renovations, sometimes the subs, they're like, man, everything you guys have is a pain in the nuts. We don't love it. Or if it's small, I had an excavation guy, a concrete guy say, well, right now I could be doing a huge job down the street for your little 12 by 12 addition. I've got to charge you twice what it's worth just to come here, So getting rid of that kind of stuff. So making it simple, defining roles, and also staying in it. This isn't me just, cutting the cord and walking away. There's no way I can do that. And I don't want to do that. I enjoy it. I enjoy the building of the business and making it a place where, where Ryan can come and grow his family and make more money and, be able to do great things. So I don't know the total, I don't have the total path planned out yet, but this feels a lot better than just continuing to, shovel it against the tide all day and being, I guess I'll just do this for another 10 years. I just kind of got to a spot where I felt like I had more to give, and I think that's what kind of ignited this. So
good. Niching down's huge. That's something that, we are that large average job size chasing contractor. Right?
Yep.
We want the $600,000 project, not the $60,000 project.
Right.
But with that, we manage everything through critical path scheduling. So mostly Gantt and then time blocks.
Yep.
But with that, there is no repeatable critical path on a custom full home renovation.
Nope.
They're all so different. They're so unique. The durations, it's really hard to get a historical baseline on how long these should take. But if you're doing a hall bathroom, like for a hall bathroom, we can put that on repeat. I know the critical path. I know the historicals. I know the baseline for it. I know all the little things that could happen in that bathroom. So I think that's honestly something here. We talked about doing divisions. So having our kitchen division, our bathroom division, our full home division, and building out just the repeatable processes in a vacuum for each one of those that has its own operating teams, its own field teams, just to make things a little bit more, I guess, flow simpler. Because right now it's really tough to ask our guys to, hop in and do a 500 square foot master bathroom addition, and then the next day, go do a hall bathroom. It's a little bit different trade sets.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of those things have all the same moving parts and pieces of a small addition. You need an electrician, you need a plumber, you need a drywall guy, you need a painter, tile guy, you need a glass door guy, wallpaper, whatever. You need plumbing fixtures, all of that stuff. And it's just a lot of coordination. So I'm hoping that with our admin, we can maybe smooth some of that stuff out, like even get her into working with somebody on selections, or setting up appointments at FW Webb or Ferguson or whatever, and kind of doing some client hand-holding on the front end so that when Ryan gets a package, it's executable, he knows what he's got to do, and he can just rock and roll with it.
Yeah, that's important too. That was one of the big moves, having a designer or at least someone to gather all those selections. Yeah. That's a big role, actually. In the process.
I mean, there'd be some times where I would stay in it long enough to get through selections, and then there'd be another one where he would call me and say, "Hey, do we have plumbing fixtures ordered on this? Yeah, so we've got to snuff out some of those, potential pitfalls, and make sure that it's, like you said, it's very defined and repeatable. This is our process. And then if we take a job, it has to check these 3 or 4 boxes. It has to be at a certain GP. It has to be a certain area. It can't be for a Karen. But if you do get stuck with one of those, it's only for 6 weeks, not 6 months.
Oh man.
Yeah.
We found a new breed of Karens. The Karens that aren't Karens until you start the project. Like they're so smooth, the sales process. They're sweet, they're kind, they're agreeable, and then you do demolition and the project starts. You're getting phone calls at 8, 9 o'clock at night. You're getting 10 emails when you wake up in the morning, and oh gosh, yeah, bless their hearts.
Yeah, my hair dryer on the 3rd floor doesn't work. There's always something.
It is,
but it's crazy. I often joke that I'm going to write a book when I'm done contracting, and it's going to be the title of it's going to be Trials and Tribulations of a Fledgling Contractor. Chapter number 1: Reasons I couldn't come to work today.
Right. Oh gosh. Yeah. By the end of your career, I'm sure you're almost PhD level in psychology and communications and project managing, event coordinating. There's a lot we have to do.
And a whole bunch of funny stories.
Oh yeah. The stories are what keep us going inside the office. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, man, I really appreciate your time this morning. We can button it up here. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the future here, pursue your coaching and, keep your business successful. I'm real excited for you, and I'm happy that you're getting to take these opportunities.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been fun. And, like I said, I don't know where the end of the road is, but I just feel like I'm just kind of going with my gut and doing what feels right, and just coming from a place of service on everything, and that's really kind of how this started. Is I just kind of was in a coaching group, and I was just, availing myself to the membership, and guys just started reaching out to me, and it occurred to me I was twice everyone's age in there. And now like, well, okay, some of these younger guys, I'm not Warren Buffett, but I can certainly I can help a 29-year-old guy that's starting out in business work through, hey, when do I hire, when do I how do I set up payroll, when do I put a company vehicle on, what's workers' comp, how do I need that kind of stuff. And there's value in that, and I got a lot out of it. I was on the phone with one guy one day helping him out just as a free call. He would just dial me up, and I remember hanging up the phone and saying, that fills my cup. And when I did that, I'm like, okay, I need to pay attention to this because it's fueling me right now, and we got to make something of this. So I'm enjoying the ride. I'm getting to meet a ton of new people, just like you. And hopefully go on a little bit of a podcast tour here and get some people on mine, and just keep having fun with it, and staying, creating new stuff and just staying excited about life and business. That's the key.
That's what it's about. Yep. If you're not having fun, you got to make a change.
Exactly. For sure. Yep.
All right, man. Well, you take care. I'll be talking to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bob.